Hey, 101 and 10. It is your girl, Ayasha Roberson, and I am back with a brand new indie artist that we get to feature around the world 101 in 10 minutes. This young lady is a powerhouse. She has this country rock sound, and I just love her lyrics as she is talking about her love affair and hear me on the radio. And she is just this really good songwriter, and I'm so happy to have her on the show. Please help me introduce to the world Miss Meagan Paullet. Yay! And she's also from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania as well, but from Philadelphia. So she is a Pennsylvania native. So I'm excited to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being on the show. So I wanted to ask you these great important questions about your musical influences. How did you become an artist and who were your music influences growing up?
So I owe a lot to my dad for the music that I was really into whenever I was starting out. He and I spent a lot of time in the car together because both of my parents worked full time. And so he'd play a lot of music. And, he would play anything from Frank Zappa to Genesis, Van Halen, yes, The Who, the Black Keys, you name it, he's probably played it at least once. And so I find that I draw from a very diverse range of artists and genres. I particularly find inspiration now from artists like David Bowie, Elton John, and Bernie Taupin, his songwriting partner, Sarah Bareilles, Carole King. But I feel that I'm able to appreciate different genres of music and draw from that because of what my dad exposed me to growing up. I've always been a music enthusiast, you could say, but I didn't really start getting into performing until I was in high school. I actually used to have really bad stage fright to the point where I would actually pass out if I was on stage in front of people. So it took me a couple of years to overcome that. But I really started to get into writing my own material once I was in high school, and I was involved in musical theater, which helped me to get over the stage fright as well. And so I feel that my experiences in music with the theater and the music I listened to with my dad really allow me as an artist to draw from a lot of different places whenever I'm writing or creating something new.
Wow, that's awesome. I love the fact that you had a challenge to overcome and you were able to overcome it so well through your gift of music. And like you said at the beginning, your dad was always somewhat instrumental in your background with music, so it was always there. And it's awesome to see how you were able to overcome that. That's very encouraging to hear. So other than the challenges that you just explained growing up, becoming this musical talented artist as you are, how have your success stories have been as an artist, and what are some of the challenges that you still face as an independent artist today?
That's a great question. So I feel like as I really started to become serious about pursuing music full time as an artist and as a writer, I felt a lot of times like I had gotten into the game too late. A lot of the friends that I had in high school who did theater, for example, were involved in performing arts groups in the area. They took lessons, they had classes, they went to these schools, and I didn't really have any of that training when I decided to get into music full time. And so I felt that, I was at a disadvantage being older, and, people in the music scene, they look for younger, fresh, vibrant, youthful talent. And I was not that. And as I started to kind of dive in a little bit further, I found that it was also a challenge to dive in without any connections with people, because one of the biggest things in the industry, especially as an independent artist, is who you know. And because I didn't have any of that prior experience with other groups or performing prior to the end of my high school career, I didn't know a whole lot of people in the industry. And so I really, it's really allowed me to take the perspective or the stance of take advantage of every opportunity that you have, no matter how big or small, paid, unpaid, no matter how far away it is. I've tried to take advantage of every opportunity that I get to play anywhere, because you never know who's going to be there. You never know who you're going to run into or who you're going to meet, and how that person is going to play a role in your journey moving forward. And so I think that the challenge of coming into the industry a little bit later in my life really was a blessing, because it allowed me to take the approach of taking advantage of every opportunity and being grateful for every opportunity that I did come across.
Wow, that's powerful. And I
Thank
think
you.
sometimes, I think by culture, we look at other people, especially as we growing up, and we see people who have been doing this since they were 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and by the time they're in high school, they're labeled as the next best thing or the powerhouse. And it was the opposite end for you because you had a little bit later start, but as you having that start is allowing you to grow and blossom and do all the things that may not been able for those people to do because they weren't able to really deal with some of their issues growing up too. A lot of
Mhm.
times kids unfortunately are somewhat told not to, don't worry about it, don't even, pay attention to whatever is making them feel anxious as well, and they're
Right.
not really able to heal themselves as a person, and they don't start really doing that until later on in life, and you were
Hmm.
able to really tap into who you are as a person and start from the ground up, and it has allowed for you to become this very humble person, which
Thank you.
you don't see a lot in the industry, and that's a very, again, a very inspiring story about your challenges and your successes growing up. So guys, you can do the same thing too. So if you're a high school student right now and you feel as though that you got a later start, or you're a college student and you're just starting out too, we all have different levels of growth. And the best thing I think that Meagan has suggested is just to kind of stay in your own lane and be your own person, and everything else will follow. It will just flow. Now let's talk about your new music. I love the Love Affair song, which is nice, and also Hear Me on the Radio. Now, what were your two inspirations between those songs? Because those songs to me feel like they're two opposite ends of the spectrum. So,
Hmm.
what was your influence for Hear Me on the Radio?
So I started to write Hear Me on the Radio about, it was after I'd gotten out of college, and it was a year after I had gotten out of a pretty rough relationship situation. The gentleman that I was dating at the time, didn't, he vocally he was very vocal about how he did not like the person that I was when I was pursuing music, and he was worried that music was going to take away time that I would spend with him. And so a year after I had left that situation, I was reflecting back on all of the things that I'd gotten to do and the person that I had become since departing that relationship situation. And I wrote the song as a way to say, I became all of the things that you said that I wasn't going to be without you.
Ooh, that's a nice slap in the face. Take that. Love it. So, guys, you got to make sure you purchase that song on Spotify and all your musical platforms as well, because it's actually out. And the Sublime Love Affair. How did you come up with that song lyrics and the influences behind it?
So that song was really interesting because I consider myself to be a multi-genre artist. So I talked earlier about how I kind of take and draw inspiration from different places and different bands. And I was really going through an 80s synthwave phase whenever I wrote that song, as you can hear probably in some of the synthesizer patches and the saxophone stuff, which my very good friend Joey Caparelli was featured on. And he just blew it out of the water. But I wrote that song because I'd had a conversation with somebody who was telling me about how they wanted somebody that they couldn't be with, and ended up, I think she said that it was her boyfriend's best friend that she would like have these fantasies about.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of inspired by that conversation to write the song from the position of someone who's having like this subliminal affair, even though she wasn't actually engaged in an affair with this
Wow.
person. She would have these thoughts
Oh,
about me with this real life. And
yeah.
so I wanted to try to capture that whenever I was writing the song. And like I said, I was going through my 80s synthwave phase, and I decided to really take advantage of that and try to play with different layers of sound. And I'm really happy with how it all came together. It was a lot of fun.
I love that song. That's one of my favorite songs from you.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I really appreciate that song. And guys, make sure you check out her music all on her website. And can you tell the fans how they can come see your show if you're in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area? Because I know you have a lot of shows coming up. So let
I
them.
do. Yeah. So you can find my show schedule and all of my links to my social media pages on my website, Meagan Paullet music.com. Paulette, 2 L's, 1 T, like Paul let the dog out. Go to my website. You can find links to my Spotify.
Yes, I believe she froze a little bit, but I believe it's Meagan Paullet music.com. You can find her on Spotify. You can find her on social media as well, and make sure you connect with her upcoming shows on Meagan Paullet music.com. Her window's a little frozen, but that is the end of our show. Thank you so much, Meagan. And we're going to have her on an upcoming show. And thank you guys for tuning in to the 101 in 10, where you get to see your favorite artists from around the world in 101 in 10 minutes. I'm your host, Ayasha Roberson. You have a good day. Take care. Bye.